Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We do hope you're keeping very, very safe and well. Thank you so much for joining us as you are with us during an international break where, quite frankly, for the first time in a long time, we are pining for the return of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. What the hell is going on right now? If you're listening to the show for the first time, and where have you been? We're on iTunes, we're on Spotify, we're across all major audio platforms. We're, of course, on Twitter at Last Word on Spurs. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads too. And we're bringing you a feature special during this international break where we've got a brilliant journalist joining us on Last Word on Spurs. Obviously, as you guys know, we've been very, very indebted and lucky to have a whole host of journalists join us throughout, of course, the whole summer on Last Word on Spurs. And we'd like to have a great journalist once again joining us on this show that's going to summarise what's been a crazy, chaotic window for Tottenham. Of course, our start to the season under Ange Postecoglou and everything and amidst what's happening with Tottenham Hotspur Football Club right now. Before I bring the man in, I'd like to have this man back alongside me who's been with us throughout the summer, who's been superb. We've got the wonderful Matty Hayes. Matt, loves you back on Last Word on Spurs. Feeling refreshed, Matt, after a good, week or so off?
Yeah, it's been weird. I haven't known what to do with myself in the last 7 or 8 days or so. You know, when I'm not getting WhatsApp messages from you, Ricky, and streaming, I don't know what to do. But look, it's fantastic to be back, and like you said, a really special guest on tonight. And I'm looking forward to getting into not only what did happen, but what didn't happen over the last couple of months for Tottenham. It's certainly going to be interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I say, just at the moment, it's such a weird feeling that, you know, we watch international football, or some that don't watch international football, and we're craving already the return of Ange Ball, such as what it's done to us over the past 2, 3, 4 weeks. One man who's been lucky enough not only to see him, but to interview him and some of the players in person. He's a regular face, of course, on Sky Sports. If you don't know him, where have you been? We've got the wonderful, he is reporter or journalist, massive Spurs fan. We've got the brilliant Michael Bridge, one of our very own over at Sky Sports. Mike, love having back on Last Word on Spurs. How are you, firstly?
Rick, that is quite an introduction, mate. Checks in the post. That's very kind. It's nice to see you both. Hello to all the fans watching, listening. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Oh, listen, mate, pleasure is all ours. Really appreciate it. Mike, do you know what? We had a whole host of questions come in for you already since obviously we put the show out that you're back on with us. And I think one of the questions we'll just initially touch upon, which, look, you, of course, have been a massive part of Spurs' summer window. Is what has it been like covering Spurs throughout the summer, and especially that deadline day? I know JP, bless him, who was in the comments, wanted to know what it's been like covering Spurs. It is, as many say, a crazy, chaotic football club. What has it been like for you to cover predominantly so much over the summer?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's pros and cons because they are the club I support. So, you know, I'm indebted to it more. It means more to me. You know, I think I don't think there's a problem in me saying that anymore. But I mean, look, I think Ange Postecoglou has signed a 4-year deal. This is a guy that wants and thrives on rebuilds, and we know this was going to be a huge rebuild. We're at stage 1. This is very early, and I was told throughout it was about the outgoings, and I kept saying to people, look, they will go. Some will go. It will be more difficult. Others will be more difficult, but eventually, most of them will go, and that has happened. The couple that have stayed, I'm actually the most surprised with. And that was frustrating in itself on the final day when reporting it, getting the information, Spurs wanting a couple more in. I get there's frustrations. I really genuinely do. Please believe me. I do get the frustrations. I am a supporter too. So yeah, it's always hectic with Spurs. Always. From a Sky journalist perspective, I don't think deadline day is what it maybe was 8 or 9 years ago, especially in the sense of the Van der Vaart situation, everything like that. For legal and Ofcom reasons, a lot of people often ask me, why is there no fans around anymore? Well, one is, the dangers and Ofcom and everything like that. So, that's all changed as well. And I think clubs are a lot more savvy now, no huge deals get left until the final hours and the final day. You want a player, you should, ideally get it done in June and July. So we've seen a difference in that as well. But all in all, yeah, it's Spurs. Nothing's ever completely straightforward. However, I think, Brennan Johnson's an exciting one. Did they want a couple more? Yes. Did they want a couple more out? Yes. Absolutely. But that's Spurs for you.
Yep, and I know many would say we wouldn't change him for the world. Listen, it's been a very good start, of course, under Ange Postecoglou. We're going to come on to that for sure. What we are going to react to, if we can, Mike, is some of, the big news on the Sunday evening that we're recording here. And that is, according to Fabrizio Romano, Spurs are on the verge of signing Croatian centre-back top talent Luka Vušković, if I pronounce that right, after a top project for his development. Vušković only wants Spurs despite interest from 5 more top clubs. We understand personal terms are agreed. Clubs are just completing the finalisation of paperwork. He has given it the here we go. He's a 6'4" centre-back, only 16 years old. He's made 8 league appearances for 𝐼𝐸 Split last season. Also played 3 games in the Cup, scoring once. He's the youngest Croatian player to play and score in the UEFA Youth League. He's played a couple of first-team friendlies for the club at only 15 years old, but he's known to be a top talent at a time where PSG, Man City were very interested in the lad, as well as other top clubs. City reportedly made a €12 million offer for the 16-year-old back in April, but Spurs appear to have won what was a crazy race for the central defender. I'm not sure if you can add to that at this point, but is it positive, Mike, to see Spurs going back to bringing in youth players that could really have a massive effect for the future?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is really, really good news coming out. I mean, not confirmed by the club yet, but it's close. Now, I don't think Spurs will see him until, I think, 2025. But the fact that Spurs are actually thinking that far ahead is very, very positive. One person who knows the youth level has said to me that this kid could be ready at 18, which is quite unbelievable. But I suppose that's backed up by the fact what you've just read out, Rick. You know, the level he's playing. You know, as Ivan Perisic had a word. But it's it's good news. You know, and it's another sign where we're seeing it early that they're looking to the future. Look at Pape Sarr, you know, and you look at Tottenham's back line at the moment. You know, Romero, 25, Mickey van der Ven, Phillips, Dorrington. I mean, this is looking to the future, and I'm talking about maybe 2 or 3 for them now. I mean, I wouldn't replace it, Romero or Van der Ven at the moment with anyone. You know, I'm that impressed by them as a combination. So it's positive news, very positive news.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, just to maybe add some more context on that, Gvardiol, a player that knows him very, very well. He said Luka Vušković is developing excellently, and I hope he will develop into a centre-back. I don't think he needs my advice. Who knows what he's going to do. I hope that one day we'll be able to play together. That's Gvardiol's thoughts on the player himself. Of course, a compatriot of his country. And I think, again, as we reference the point, Matt, if I get you to give a comment on this, you know, you look at Spurs' young talent now they've got coming through the ranks. They've got Hello Veliz, Ashley Phillips, Jude Sunsup Bell, and of course this lad that we're signing here, Luka Vušković. I mean, they're all signed in the last 9 months, all under 19. We've seen Mikey Moore tied down to a long-term contract as well. Dane Scarlett tied down to a new contract as well. It does seem, Matt, I don't know if you agree, there's been a major shift in strategy when it comes to the academy, and great to see Spurs moving early to get some of these young players in.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the Spurs that we missed for 4 years when the club seemed to take that very strange direction towards trying to win instant success. You know, we were all so proud of that team under Pochettino, especially when it was the youngest team in the league and we were fighting up at the top of the table, fighting for top 4, playing football the way we wanted to, and we seem to be back to that now. And a couple of weeks ago, I think it was after we signed Mickey van der Ven, I put up a tweet looking at the different players that we had, their ages and when their contracts are running until. And there's been a few signings since then. Alejo Veliz, I think it's a 6-year contract that he's on. Brennan Johnson on a 6-year contract as well. You know, we're building a team that is good for now, but is going to be even better in the future. You know, it can be a difficult balance kind of to find when you're trying to build for the future and in the way Spurs have that. You might have to sacrifice the immediate future to throw players into the deep end and have a squad where it's going to be tricky to maybe find that balance between the youth and energy that you're trying to bring in, but also with the having to have that experience to kind of balance that out a little bit, where Spurs seem to be doing it very, very well now. And look, I understand there's a few people who are a little bit upset that we're not going to see him until 2025, but this is the proactive side of Spurs that we haven't seen for so long. You know, in the past, Tottenham might have said, well, look, we don't want to buy someone for 18 months down the line, but this is a player who's attracting a lot of attention from all around Europe. Manchester City had a bid rejected in April or May. Barcelona, I think, we're in there as well, and PSG too. And Tottenham, we haven't waited around. We've gone in, we've got that deal done, and it's one that we have to look forward to in the future. And look, I was looking at a few kind of scouting reports and different words kind of coming out of Croatia about the player, and the player you mentioned there, Josko Gvardiol. There's some feelings that he could be even better than Gvardiol is. Playing in that Manchester City team now, so it's an extremely exciting one, and it's so refreshing to see us go in that direction again, where we're looking to bring in these exciting young players and looking towards kind of solidifying that squad in the long term.
Absolutely, Matt. And just on that point, if I can say, there was a talent scout report done on him at the age of 15. They picked up on the fact that he's got strength, grace, elegance, skillful, really good football IQ, a lovely player to watch. Obviously, very strong strengths, obviously including his passing, vision, tackling position, aerial rules and versatility. Look, at 15, I mean, that is quite remarkable. Obviously, he's a few years older than, a year older than that now. So, look, promising signs ahead. One, of course, we'll wait to see him holding the shirt before we get too excited. But it appears that deal is getting closer. But Mike, we do want to get right into things in terms of what's been a joyful start to the season with Tottenham, where I think, Mike, you'll know yourself, with a new manager coming in, there's always a bit of trepidation as to what a manager could face. I think you'll agree with me that it's been a turbulent summer for Tottenham. Hasn't been easy, of course, with the pinpoint, which many wanted to not talk about, of course, losing Harry Kane and having to really rebuild the team in what you've got to say is an Ange Postecoglou style. And he's really seemingly won fans over at such an early period that, to be honest with you, it's quite remarkable when you think Spurs have taken 10 points from a possible 12 on offer, with the only blemish being that opening day draw with Brentford, if you want to call it that. But since then, we've had wins over Manchester United, Bournemouth, Burnley. And not only have we seen them win, but we've seen them do it in such a style with panache, Mike. And, we've scored 11 goals in 4 league games in the process, second in the league momentarily. And to be fair to him, look, he's unlocked a free-flowing style of football. And even though he says it's far from the final product he wants, as fans, we're getting very, very excited. So I'm intrigued to know what you've made of Spurs' start to the season, along with the fan hat on as well, because I know, again, when you're off camera, you're a fan as much as all of us. So tell us, Mark, what you've made of Spurs' start to the season under Ange.
You've outed me, Ricky. You've outed me. My friends will vouch for me. In April, I mentioned him in a WhatsApp group that he was the one I would ideally like, and a couple of friends of mine said, "You're mad. You're this. You're that." No. Who is he? Scottish football. I've got the messages, and they know who they are. But I like Scottish. I watched a lot of Scottish football, and there was something about him every time I heard him for Celtic and how he turned them around. I liked what he'd say to the Celtic fans at the end of the season, and just when I saw Spurs link with him, I was like, okay, I could see it. And then when he was appointed, I was happy. And the last few months of last season were miserable. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. They were miserable. Couldn't wait for the season to end. But look, let's start on on Ange. It's been a very encouraging start. I don't want to get too carried away, but it's genuinely heartwarming, and it's great to see so many supporters happy, because they've not been happy for such a long time. They've not enjoyed the football like this for some time. The style of play, the goals, the goal scorers, different goal scorers, the new signings, and a family friend who's Celtic home and away, Celtic nuts. We saw him in the summer, and he said to me, please tell your Spurs fans, just be patient. Give him time. I beg you, because he is special. He's going to be special. We lost our first game against Hearts. We lost against Rangers. But then it just turned. He brought his own players in, his own ethos, his work ethic, his style, everything. And they were absolutely devastating. I think I'm speaking for like the vast majority of Celtic supporters when I'm saying that. And I'm getting that from a fan who is just an absolute diehard. So that made me excited. And he went through the players that would work for Spurs and everything like that. Look, as I say, people have said, oh, you've had a pretty decent start to the season. You've had a nice set of fixtures. They've got 3 away games. I'm not being... And you could say that Spurs might have won all 4 if Romero did stayed on against Brentford, because it was the kind of poor defending at the back that cost Spurs, I feel. I think they would have won that game against Brentford. So it could have been 4 wins in 4. But look, it's 3 wins out of 4. 3 good wins. And you have to think as well that Spurs had a very poor pre-season. 4 games. The 4th one, there was a reserve team in Barcelona. 1 cancelled match due to a waterlogged pitch. So they were pretty behind. So that surprises me. Just how quick it's gone. The turnaround, the football, and the atmosphere after the Manchester United game was just so good. Complete. The contrast compared to last season Unbelievable. And I went to Fulham a few weeks ago. I'm sure we'll come on to that in terms of the game itself. But the supporters, I have never known so many fans wanting to get a ticket for a Tuesday night in the second round League Cup. And I think that Fulham actually stopped selling tickets in their end because they knew Spurs fans were going in there. Everyone wants to be there at the moment. It's a brilliant feeling. And long may it continue, because I just think he's so special. I really, really do. And I keep hearing rival fans, I hate Spurs, but I love this manager. I love this manager. There's just something about him. And I just hope and pray that, we don't, like, Spurs don't muck this up and we can have this long relationship. And when I say long relationship in football management terms, 3 or 4 years. I know it sounds a bit miserable, but that's being realistic. So let's wait and see if it's a brilliant start.
You mentioned the word patience there, Mike, when you were saying the Celtic fans that we're talking to, and I think it was the word of the day for the majority of the summer, that we were saying we're getting this new manager in, we're going to be switching everything, we're hopefully going to be a complete overhaul of that squad. And I think what's been fantastic that we've been able to fall in love with him, not only his persona, which is of course a massive part of that, but it's that Spurs on the pitch have been completely reinvented. And looking at the spells that we've had under Jose Mourinho, under Nuno, under Antonio Conte, I know there's a very, very good 6 or 9 months under Conte, but all in all, we were watching Tottenham play a type of football that we just don't enjoy, that we don't want to play, and we weren't sure if we wanted to sacrifice that for a few 1-0 wins here and there. But Postecoglou is a far cry from those predecessors, and he's playing attacking football 90 minutes a game, I think a lot of people said it about that game against Burnley last season. When we went 2-1 up, we would have sat back, and that second goal in the last minute would have been an equaliser rather than a consolation for Burnley late on. And look, from your perspective, having had the chance to speak with Postecoglou in a number of press conferences so far, are you surprised with how quickly Spurs fans have fallen in love with him? But also from a personal perspective, really, what's it been like interviewing him compared to what you had with Antonio Conte and Nuno Espirito Santo before?
Look, I got on with Conte. I liked him off camera, but so with Antonio, Alistair, and other journalists were given 2 questions because Antonio would give 1 to 3 minute answers, like long considered answers, and we can talk about his football and everything like that, but I have to say he had some real personal trauma. And I think when our fitness coach passed away, his friend of 30 years, I don't think he recovered from that. And then he lost 2 other close friends, Mihailovic, Gianluca Vialli. I remember speaking to someone at Tottenham about Vialli, inconsolable for a long time. Then, of course, he had his own health issues. Now, look, I'm not saying he was the fit for Tottenham, because ultimately he wasn't. And I got many "I told you so" texts. But he did get Tottenham into the top 4 when they were 9th, when he took over, or 8th, when. But just Postecoglou, just his first. So I was in for his first press conference, and when it finished, a reporter said to me, "Cool, that was 57 minutes." I went, "What?" It felt like 15. But it was because it was so enjoyable. I was just, when I'd done my questions, I was just sitting back, just having a cup of tea with me Ange mug, and just like listening and enjoying it, because I like listening to the guy. And, and someone has told me in terms of how, because obviously I'll be interviewing him quite a lot during the season. And my colleague said to me, who's interviewed him a lot for Celtic, and said, "Look, you'll always enjoy Ange, but you'll sort of have a bit of fun on his terms. Don't try and joke about with him. If he wants a laugh, you have a laugh with him, but he won't get close to anyone, but he'll make you feel good." And that's what I've seen already, and even if he gets the odd questions, like the Robbie Williams question, he handled it well. And you just know it's going to get picked up on all social media. So he's got that about him. Dare I say there's a bit of Martin Jol about him, but I'd say he is another level in terms of his coaching. I love Martin, loved him, but just Ange's level in terms of, I just thinking what he feels about his football and what we've seen already. But in terms of like, I want to give that guy a bit of a hug, or I just want to say hello to him, or I want a photo with him. That's what and I think that's what Tottenham fans have kind of missed. They don't have a manager now where it's like, yeah, I'm kind of doing you a favour really, because I've won it all around the world. Ange's here. And look, he said it as well. He's not young. He's late 50s. So, you know, for him, this is a big move for him as well. So it's like, it just seems like a perfect fit this time. It really, really does. So, and like, as you all do, as Tottenham fans do, they like listening to him. We all like listening to him. I think he will back us, you know, and I look forward to seeing him on the touchline at the Emirates. I look forward to seeing him in those big matches. So, yeah, as I say, I go back to it. And he's only been here like 3 or 4 months. But
it's mad. It's mad.
You know, but what I like about him, and he said things as well off camera, like on deadline day in the presser. You know, we had a few questions about, you know, director of football and Scott Mann and who's going to sort of like have the final say. And he said, no. Don't anyone blame anyone else but me, who's on that pitch. I sign who I want. Brennan Johnson, whoever. It's me. I will take responsibility. So he's just lighting the club up, hasn't he? He's just made everyone feel good. Everyone can't wait for Sheffield United at home. So, yeah, as I say, long may it continue. But I think what I need to say to Spurs fans as well, and I'm sure they all know this, there are going to be some bumpy rides. One more thing I'd say, and I know Spurs fans won't like to hear this, I do genuinely believe a year out of Europe could be really good. Just for 1 year. And I know you'll get some Spurs fans saying, no, we're Tottenham, we should be in Europe every year. No, I'm not having that. I just feel for Ange this year, it's the right year to do it for him.
Can I ask you one? Go on, Matt. You go first.
I just want to say, what just before we move on from the press conference side of things, how impressed were you, Mike, with how Postecoglou dealt with the Harry Kane questions at the beginning of his tenure? Because it was one that, for any manager, it's difficult to kind of go in and face questions of that magnitude. But I think it was the first or second press conference that Postecoglou made a joke about. He had a bet with his friends that, you know, it was going to be the second question.
Me asked it.
Is it your question?
It was you, yeah.
Right. So look, this is what happened. So obviously I was just like, oh God, because I was told I was going to start this press conference. And I was also told that we would have 3 questions because obviously it was a packed presser that day. Usually, you know, with Ange, it's about 6 or 7. But 3 questions, then next person. And I was like, oh God, I'm going to have to ask about Kane, and you know, and some people say, oh, why are you asking? I've got to. That's my job, right? It's the elephant in the room, if you know, and if it's not me, it's going to be someone else. And my seniors, I'd spoken to them about it, and people more senior than me said, no, you're going there as a Sky reporter. We want you to ask about Harry Kane. Okay, so yeah, and you know what? As I say, he knew it was coming, and this is him in a nutshell. Turns around, goes, question 3, eh? Question 3. Mila had question 6. I think I had question 3. Or so, it was something like that. And just make, you know, obviously I'm going, ba-jum. I'm human. But like, you know, it's like, here we go. It was like, you know, last week on deadline day, because I always start off with the team news. That is the custom thing. I get, you know, always the, all right, mate, how's team news? And then the second question was, because they had to fly to Manchester for the Burnley game. So again, it was only 2 or 3 questions. I said, right, straight into deadline day now, because I know you've got a flight. And he just went, you were just buttering me up with that team news question, weren't you? But it's just little things like that, you know. It's just like, it's just good. Yeah, and then that's another example. When it's on his terms, go along with it. You know, but yeah, look, I'm smiling all the time when I'm talking about him. So yeah.
Can I just ask one final thing, Mike, on the press conference? Because it's funny, because at times he's kind of got his hand over his mouth, and some are thinking, does he really want to be there? But he just seems to be really analysing the question that's being asked of him before he answers it. You know, what's the feeling like in the room? Because it does feel like, and again, this is the great thing, having someone on like you that not only you're a Spurs fan, but to be up there, present and close to the guy when you're interviewing him. You get a feeling of the character of him, but he does seem to have this aura about him. Is that fair to say? Do you feel that even as a journalist, as you are there interviewing?
Yeah, look, there are some managers where, for me, if I'm doing presses, it's like they don't give you anything. You know, they will bat everything away. You know, it's, you know, and transfers, you know, they're not going to be completely straight with you. But as I say with Ange, yes, admittedly, it's probably because it's the team I support. I enjoy going. I like listening to him. There are managers you just don't. You know, that's life. It's like, as fans, you turn on the telly, Sky, whoever, and not listen to him. Or yeah, I'll listen to him. He'll be great value. It is just what it is. And I think with Postecoglou, as I say, he wants to be there and he's proud to be there. And there's always going to be a funny soundbite. And it's like, he talks about, like the other week, he talked about what he was listening to about a podcast or something. And then someone the week after may have asked him again. And he's like, and I think he's thinking, we did this last week. It's like, and that's when I was warned, forced laughter or forced banter. It's got to be on his terms, So that's the little bits I've spotted already. But yeah, I'm a big fan of his, just as a person. And I think there's a new book of Postecoglou coming out. So I look forward to reading that. I know there's been people reading the old versions as well. So So it's been a good start.
Well, also, Mike, there's a lot of love for you in here. They also appreciate, obviously, our fans, that you've got to ask some of the difficult questions. So, mate, we're always firmly behind you, so don't you worry about that. Look, we spoke glowingly about him so far, so it's good that I can kind of then bring it onto this particular note, because I think the only blemish or negative so far has been, of course, that negative exit from the Carabao Cup. Of course, Spurs making, it was 9 changes at the time to that starting lineup, and obviously they went out on penalties. But I just wonder whether he'll get that as Tottenham fans. I don't say die hard, because all fans have different priorities about how they see things in terms of when it comes to domestic and when it comes to cup competitions. But me, as I'd say, an older school Spurs fan, the cup competitions mean a lot to me. So when I saw 9 changes there, and whilst I appreciated that afterwards, he said, look, without me playing these players, how am I going to say they're not going to be good enough? 9 changes seemed very, very heavy to make against a Premier League side away from home, in only really, if you've got to be honest, say 2 winnable cup competitions for Tottenham. So I would love to know from you how you feel he handled that particular game, and whether you feel in time for the FA Cup to kick in January, he will understand that the cup competitions to Tottenham fans do mean a hell of a lot.
Look, I mean, we've spent the last 20 odd so minutes praising him, and rightly so. And I think it's only fair that we also are balanced, and I think that was a mistake. 9 changes. I went as a fan, and it's not a nice draw anyway. Like, second round of the League Cup. I mean, Spurs haven't been in it for 13 years. The second round, should be going to Exeter or something like that. Like Fulham was a horrible draw, which Martin O'Neill picked out when he was talking to the Bulls. But I just thought it was a missed opportunity. I really did, because then I saw the third round draw, like so many all Premier League ties, Newcastle City, was it Brentford, Arsenal? Like, oh no, So I was disappointed. And look, I know he came out and said after, look, I need to see some of these players, I need to learn more. I think deep down he knows. I think deep down he knows. And look, they could have won the penalty shootout and we wouldn't even be talking about it now, would we? Penalties. But even so, I think, and people could say, yeah, it's all right. It's all well and good saying it now. Well, at the time when the team news came out, I can assure you, the people I was with, they were going, cool, that is a lot of changes. 9 is too many. But look, the only thing I would say is as well, and I know Matt knows a lot about Celtic and Scottish football as well. If you look back on his time at Celtic, he would actually play very strong sides in the early rounds of their cup competitions. So that's why I was a little bit more surprised as well. But hey, it's a little speed bump, little bump in the road in what's been a very, very smooth and enjoyable journey so far.
Absolutely. Well, listen, what we are going to do, we are going to go for our first break of the show for our listeners and audio. For those that are watching us across all of our platforms, we've got over 1,000 plus of you watch us live across all of our platforms. Thank you again so much for all your incredible support for Last Word on Spurs. We really, really do appreciate it. And I'm going to hand over to Matt, who's going to kickstart us to analyse Tottenham's transfer window, because Mike hasn't heard much about that in terms of the transfer window recently, have you, Mike? I had about that.
The transfer part of the show is always my favourite bit, and we spoke earlier about some bad changes that Postecoglou made, but there's a lot of good changes that he made throughout the window, revamping that Spurs squad, despite the departure, as we already mentioned, of Tottenham's all-time record goal scorer Harry Kane. There's been a few few players gone, 11 altogether gone out, whether that's permanently or on loan. We spent £150 million in trying to replace them with bringing in 𝐷𝐿𝐿 Vicario, James Maddison, Manor Solomon, Mickey van de Ven, Alejo Valise, Ashley Roberts, and of course Brennan Johnson joining for almost 50 million on deadline day. Since the close of the English window, Postecoglou has sanctioned a few departures, with Davinson Sanchez and Tanguy Ndombele moving out to Galatasaray, Sanchez permanently and Ndombele on loan, with Hugo Lloris still at the club somehow, his future remaining in the balance. Now, look, I said at the top of the show, Mike, that there's a lot that was done, but there's also a lot that wasn't done. And I think it's clear that Tottenham didn't complete every deal that they would have wanted to complete throughout that window. But the overhaul by Postecoglou has been impressive nonetheless. And if you look at the team that started the first game of last season under Antonio Conte and the team that started that 2-2 draw against Brentford 12 months later, there was only 4 players that started both of those games. And with 5 more transfers in the last week of the window, there has been a lot of change. A few players still left there that we know kind of don't have much of a place in the plans of the new manager. Tottenham looking to try and complete deals for Hugo Lloris, Eric Dyer and Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, but nothing that quite suited them as the window slammed shut a little over a week ago. How would you rate that overall window? And I'm interested to hear from you as well, from your perspective. Do you think that Ange Postecoglou was genuinely backed by the club in that window?
I mean, is there such thing ever as a perfect window? I don't know. You know, I think it was a decent window. I think they're a defender short for absolute shorts, for absolute certainty. There might be a midfielder short, might be a striker short, but then the objective I had and other Tottenham reporters was, you know, the message was quite clear from the last few weeks was they've got 34 players to fit into a 25-man squad, and they had to get players out. You know, some are going to see them back again next year, like maybe Reguilón and Ndombele, and you know, it's the same. Seems to be the same players every summer, the same names. You know, so I think that's a difficult one as well. I mean, it's, you know, look, it's the recruitment's not been good enough over the past few years. I think what we are beginning to find out is that Fabio Paratici made more decent signings than bad ones. I think if we're going to analyse them now, look, you know, there's going to be some negatives. As I say, I think we are short at the back. I really, you know, I'm a bit concerned about that. Sorry to be negative. I don't, you know, Romero, who's not even committed a foul yet, I don't think, but you know, he's got a red card in him at some stage of the season. Is he going to get a knock? We know there was a slight knock for Argentina. Mickey van de Ven, is he going to get injured? I mean, and there's so much expected of Mickey van de Ven. He's, you know, to go straight into the Premier League and play like this. There's just a few concerns for me, obviously, and you know, you can never replace Harry Kane, like for like. But obviously, there's no out-and-out striker coming in. Ange wanted Brennan Johnson. The positive is that's who he wanted. That's who he's got. That is not come from the club. That is the player he loves. So, look, let's flip it round. We all agree, I think universally agree, that Spurs are a defender light. And even though I think 12.8 million for Sanchez in his final year of his contract is pretty good money, is this going to bite them back on the backside because he was the substitute defender? We all like the look of Ashley Phillips, but throwing him into the Premier League is going to be some test for the lad. But look, again, you have to. Ange Postecoglou gave the thumbs up for Sanchez to leave. So, and in terms of Davinson Sanchez, you know, very best wishes to him. I think he's been nothing but professional, and I was really proud of the Spurs fans with the comments they had left on him when he said he was leaving, because he's a good lad. So I'm just a little bit concerned with light. Let's flip it round to the positives. Vicario, really like the look of now. I loved it when he did that celebration, when he made that save against Burnley. I love it. I love it. Like, to him, that was like a goal. You know, I love that. Van de Ven, brilliant start. Udogie, oh my goodness. Wow, 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 wow. What a player Tottenham Hotspur have there. You know, you just look at it as well. So, yeah, I mean, the ones that have come in, I really like. And James Maddison, again, we go back to Ange being funny when one of the journalists said about Maddison being a bargain. And Ange went, I don't know what world you live in, mate. 40 million bargain. But that's Ange just deflecting, because he knows what the journalist means. because Mount was 60 for Man United and Tottenham signed Maddison for 40. It's a brilliant deal. It could be the signing of the season. Again, if he stays fit. So many ifs. But let's be positive. The ones that have come in have really settled in well. So let's keep our fingers crossed. But I just think they're a centre-back light.
You're muted there, Ricky.
You're absolutely spot on there, Mike. I think the context on that point is I think we've got 16 league games between now and January. So you do feel that we're going to be kind of walking a tightrope a little bit towards January just to see if we can keep those players fit. And what I do want to ask you about is that there's been a couple of different reports come out, Mike, in regards to this reported meeting that happened maybe before the window closed or after the window closed. And that's with Eric Dyer and Daniel Levy. There's been reports out there that essentially there was some form of meeting held between Eric Dyer and Daniel Levy. We've heard different interpretations of the report. There was one that suggested that Eric Dyer was the one that wanted to kind of have that meeting with Daniel Levy, but then we've heard other reports suggesting that Daniel was the one that was having that meeting with Eric Dyer. Of course, Dyer didn't get a move, didn't secure a move, of course, in the transfer window, has been left out of all the squad so far under Ange Postecoglou. Keen to get your thoughts, Mike. If you know anything there, you can tell us with regards to Eric Dyer's future. Bearing in mind, he's not been in Postecoglou's plans so far. And your understanding as to if there has been a meeting, how that has come about and why and where.
What I know on this is that I don't think it was banging on someone's door. Put like, Ange, don't want to speak to you. I need to speak to Daniel. I don't think it was anything like that. But this is a guy that's been there a long time now, a hell of a long time. And I think he's probably a little bit hurt that he's gone from like an England international and, you know, one of the first names on Conte's team sheet to Ange saying, you're just not for me. So I think from my information, it was maybe Spurs speaking to him about a possible solution for this summer. The information I had is he had a few offers, like none of them were of any interest to him. I know there was a tentative inquiry to Bournemouth over Lloyd Kelly, the defender. Spurs, obviously, as we've seen, are looking to add more homegrown. And Dyer was mentioned to go elsewhere. That's one example of information I do know as fact. He said no to that. And as it stands, he will see his contract out and join a European club or a Saudi club, I don't know, next season. Of course, that for him means that rules him out of the Euros. And people can say, well, he's miles away from the England squad. Well, you'd say that about Maguire, wouldn't you? But he plays. And we've seen that Gareth Southgate picks the players he likes. But yeah, so I don't think it was like a knock on the door. I want this, I want that. He's not in that position. It'd be intriguing to see with the registration. I think it's Wednesday. That, you know, because again, he is a senior player. Okay, he's not an Ange player. We know that he doesn't fit Ange Postecoglou's system. That's clear. But he is an option. He's a senior player. He can also play in midfield if there's a problem there. So I'm a little bit intrigued to see what happens with the registration. As I say, and we all can agree, you know, there's some really exciting defenders coming through at Tottenham, but I'm really cautious about putting these boys in very early and they get the shock of their lives and it could affect them for a while. You've got to be really careful. You know, you ask any coach and you know yourselves, everyone, it's such a jump from under 23s playing in front of 1,000 to the Premier League and everything. We've got the most amazing pyramid system in you know, we've got the EFL and you see what Alfie Devine having already the most amazing career moments, scoring that stoppage time winner, how much that will do to him. So, you know, so with Eric Dyer, yeah, let's see how we do Wednesday. But I don't think it was, from my information, there was nothing bad or sort of negative or rowing or anything like that in terms of the meeting.
You bring up the word registration there, Mike. Postecoglou has made it clear with regards to Hugo Lloris that it doesn't appear that he will be registered regardless of what happens for him. Now, obviously, again, Lloris made it very, very public towards the back end of last season as we went into the summer that he wanted a new challenge. He was looking to leave Tottenham and a move at this point hasn't materialised. We understand that on the deadline day, which I'm sure you're aware of, Nice came in for him at the very, very last minute. Lloris has publicly commented on that and just said he didn't have enough time to maybe weigh up that decision and ultimately what that project was and essentially what the plan was. And obviously he still remains at the football club. So I'm really intrigued to know whether you do feel there'll be some kind of a reprieve there where he does somehow end up being part of Postecoglou's squad as a third goalkeeper, despite the fact that he seems to have, at the moment, Postecoglou ruled that out, or whether you do feel Lloris will eventually leave the club, whether it's now, January, or potentially the club look to reach some form of a mutual termination over his contract, which would allow him to leave the club for free. Intrigued to get your thoughts on that, Mike.
So the information I have had on Lloris is that Tottenham would not have commanded a fee for him. So if they did, with the Nice story that came out, which I reported and others reported, that would have been a free transfer. And for me, personally, I thought he might have taken that offer. Now, I am absolutely stunned we are talking about Hugo Lloris, Tottenham Hotspur goalkeeper, in September, because in Ange's first presser, he basically all but confirmed that he has no future at Tottenham Hotspur, that he wasn't going to go to the tour of Australia and Asia, and obviously that happened. So he's had all summer to find a new club, and you'd think he'd still do a decent job somewhere, but it just sounds like he hasn't had an offer which he deems suitable for him. He'll probably think in his head, look, I've got another 2 years. I want to make this the right move. I want to make this the right club. Offers of being a second choice. Hold on, I'm Hugo Lloris. I don't want to be second choice. So, as you sort of alluded to, Rick, I think I wouldn't rule out Dyer being in a 25-man squad. I could all but rule out Lloris, unless Ange had a complete rethink, and in terms of the quotas. But in the presser on deadline day, now it might have been swept under the carpet a little bit because everything was obviously so transfer, that day. He did again reiterate that he wouldn't be there and he needed to have a homegrown second and third goalie. If that's changed, I'm not aware of that. That is what I was aware of last week. So that's the latest I had on Lloris. And just to finish off, I think it's a sad way because this is a guy that's given 11 years to this football club. Now, some would say that's a long time. It's a damn long time in your football career. So, and I didn't want him to sort of bow out at Newcastle in the way it happened. And I wanted him to sort of get a bit of a farewell, like against Shakhtar or something. But that's me being a romantic. But now it's getting to the stage of like, what's happening here? What's going on? So, again, wait and see. There might be movement there in a few days. I don't know, but yeah, it's. I'm shocked he's still here. I'm going to be completely honest with you both.
The replacement that Spurs have brought in for Hugo Lloris, one of the two players that you've interviewed recently, Mike, is Guglielmo Vicario, and he's made a very assured start to life at Spurs. And there was some concerns after a few pre-season games, and even that draw at Brentford on the opening day of the season, that maybe Vicario wasn't up to the level that was needed, but he was playing with very new defence in front of him, that the defence was trying to gel and he was trying to gel with them. But he's Tottenham's first new number one in 11 years since Hugo Lloris took the gloves from Brad Friedel, and he's kept 2 clean sheets in 2 of his first 4 matches and made some fantastic saves. The save from Casemiro in that game against Manchester United and that one against Burnley that you alluded to already, where he celebrated as if he just scored a last-minute winner in the World Cup final. He's really impressed, and his ability and composure with his feet is absolutely crucial to what Spurs are trying to do at the moment. Looking back to earlier in the window for Tottenham, it was very much David Raya that they were looking to bring in, and they were in negotiations for quite a while at Brentford. Do you think there's a feeling there that the Tottenham kind of have settled for a second choice goalkeeper rather than go for someone of a similar quality to David Raya, or are they satisfied that they've got the man they needed?
I think, look, I mean, Spurs did like David Raya. They just didn't like the price. And I don't really think Brentford can be celebrating too much of how they've dealt with the Raya deal, if I'm completely honest with you. My initial thoughts would be that Spurs and Brentford would come to a figure and that would get done. So when Vicario happened, it was quite a turnaround, and the information we got originally was from our colleague in Italy, Gianluca Di Marzio. I then spoke to a couple of other colleagues in Italy, and I said, "Look, you don't know everyone." I said, "Look, can you tell us about this guy? I don't really know much about this goalkeeper." They said, "You are getting our best prospect, best goalkeeper." Buffon goes on about him, but they are all really just huge fans, and one journalist said to me that Inter Milan and Juve were going to go in for him last minute. So that's why maybe Spurs have just decided, just do it. Very good price. Anyway, it's just like everything. It's like Ange with all these new signings. So far, so very good. And I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit concerned when I saw the West Ham pre-season game. I was a little bit concerned against Brentford. But now I really like him. I really, really like him. And look, this doesn't have any bearing on his playing ability. But when I interviewed him in London, he's such a lovely guy. Like, really nice guy. His English is brilliant, like Destiny's. And he's a lot bigger than I thought. I thought I was tall. I look like I'm tiny next to him when I was talking to him. I was like, what's going on here? But I really like him. For those who haven't seen, I've done a couple of snippets on my Twitter, just bits on Ange and the start of the season. Just great lads. Good start. I just don't go too far. But yeah, look, I don't think, and I've seen it, and I get it. I do. Spurs fans, the cheaper option. I don't think David Raya. I think Brentford. I found that a strange move. I really do, in terms of like the business side of it. I know Brentford have got to tie him down onto a new contract, but even so, I don't think Spurs have gone for the cheap option here. I think they liked both goalkeepers, and I think Spurs have got a good deal on Vicario. And people in Italy, it's like when I asked Celtic fans about Ange, I asked people about Vicario, and it's all very, very positive.
You done well there, Mike. I keep both Swan in that interview, bearing in mind the weather conditions.
Oh, you wouldn't believe this, right? So it's called the Italian Gardens, Hyde Park in Kensington area. It was stunning. Me and my two cameramen, we had the beautiful shot of all the waterfalls, everything. It was just the most stunning shot. Planning to walk around all the gardens with them, stopping, and oh no, the rain starts absolutely tipping it down. And of course, Spurs obviously rightly, don't want to get it blooming colds before Burnley or anything like that. So we did it inside. So he just couldn't believe it. We had it all set, good to go. But yeah, no, really lovely guys, really lovely. And I know it doesn't really matter too much, but it's nice. I know it's nice for fans to hear if you've got genuinely nice people in your squad.
Absolutely. And again, on that second, obviously, part of that interview as well, not only Guillermo was there, so was Destiny Udogie. To be fair, I think Spurs fans, similar to Ange, have completely fallen in love with the guy very, very early on. And I think, again, when you look at obviously what he's come into in terms of a role where really, I'll probably go back to Danny Rose and his real pomp, that we haven't really had someone that has generally kind of made that role their own. And in terms of fans having that confidence and reassurance that they can do a job in that position. I know it's very, very early days. I know many are already talking up the prospect of just how good this guy can be. I've already seen, a lot of reports suggesting that he's been the best left back, definitely so far in the Premier League. Of course, we know there's tougher challenges ahead. I just want to know what you've made of him, Mike, really from a fan perspective. Early days for Destiny, but could we have asked for any more in the 4 games we've seen so far?
I don't want to go overboard, but I don't think I'd swap him for any left back in the league. I'm completely taken aback by him. I am so impressed. He's the one for me who's really, I'm just like, wow. I think you could have everything. He is, and when Paratici does cut all absolute official ties, if he ever does with Tottenham, he's still got a very good relationship with Tottenham and the board, but what a signing he is. Wow. I'm so excited by him. I can't give you a good sentence here. I'm just really excited by this guy.
It's quite frightening that, we're only 4 games in, because you just think there's so much more for him to develop and to get better, right?
I mean, we all do our predicted lineups, and I remember someone putting him in for Brentford. I'm like, oh no, just stick Ben Davies in there. Let's just go easy first. Not with Ange. No way. You're in. End of. And that's sometimes what Spurs have been guilty of in the past when they've had new signings. He's on the bench. Get him in now. And that's what he did with Van der Ven. This is what he's done with Destiny. And it's really proved to be the right thing to do. Totally the right thing to do. And as I go back to it, I was told the other week, oh, yeah, but you've only played relegation fodder and a crisis club Man U. This was the same Man United people had us to finish second or third a few weeks ago. This Brentford, relegation fodder. Oh, goodness me. So I've been very, very impressed. Really impressed. He's the one for me.
I remember going into that game against Manchester United. I didn't get to watch it because I was at work, but a lot of my friends are United fans. And when the result came in, it was 2-0. I was messaging them, a few of them about it. I was thinking they'd be going on about Maddison, they'd be going on about Romero, or about how much Son has improved. But every single message I got was that Udogie he's world class. He's an absolute player. It's refreshing to see yet again someone coming in and being able to hit the ground running. But Christian Romero in centre back, Mike, is a player who's really stepped up this season, and it looks like handing the vice captaincy to him has been a stroke of genius by Postecoglou this season. The extra responsibility that he's been given seems to be a game changer. He's a player who we all know was rash, we all know was impulsive, and I think probably all three of us and every Spurs fan watching was playing Romero yellow card bingo by the time we got to the end of last season. It seemed as though every game he was picking one up. But, like we've mentioned, hasn't committed a single foul in the Premier League so far this season. He's scored a couple of goals, including that absolute banger against Burnley. He said in the summer that he did have offers to leave the club, which he declined because he was happy at Spurs and he wants to succeed at the club. Do you think we're seeing a more settled and committed player this season?
Well, Matt, as you rightly alluded to, Ange giving him the vice captaincy, it could be a stroke of absolute genius, alongside James Maddison, who for me, his maturity, maybe I don't know if it's just because he's just a bit older now, or with children, but with Matty, like all the social media, his kids wearing Spurs tops, us this, Spurs that, COYS that, and I think it's genuine. I think it's genuine with Maddison. With Romero, I got told from a very, very good source that if Conte would have stayed, Romero would have left. So there's maybe an issue, Anyway, it's irrelevant now, but I don't think them two really clicked at all. And this isn't an excuse on Romero, but I find Argentina. How can I word this? I sometimes find watching the Argentina players on social media really annoying, because I just feel like, I don't know, I questioned their commitment to their club when they were so keen. I don't know. I'm trying. I don't want to offend the players here, because it's great and good luck. They won the World Cup and Messi, wonderful, wonderful. But, when you had sort of the players going away, you'd question maybe the odd injury, and then they'd go to Argentina and then everything like that. But ever since this World Cup, which was obviously in the middle of the season, hasn't helped really anyone. But on Romero, oh God, again, if he stays fit, I wouldn't choose many other defenders than him. Incredible player, unbelievable. So it's all positive, and long may this kind of, I don't think I'm sure he's not committed a foul yet. I'm pretty sure of that.
Well, both of them together, but I think him and Van der Ven together have just been formidable. It's been unbelievable. Yeah.
And Van der Ven, I mean, he's so young.
Yeah.
He's so young.
Richie, I think you just want to say we're winning the league. I think that's what you want to say. You just need to say it. Don't hold it in anymore. Come on.
I just like these players, and I just, it's last year, say you took Harry Kane's goals away, you'd have finished 18th. It's like, football doesn't work like that. And this year, who's Tottenham's top goal scorer is going to be? I mean, at this rate, it's going to be Pedro Porro or someone at the, left back. It's that kind of season,
Yes.
And it's great. They're all coming from different angles, different goals, different goal scorers. As you say, Romero getting 2. And as Matt, as you pointed out, and it was a lovely photo when Son was appointed captain, because I wasn't sure who was going to be vice. And I don't think I ever had Romero in my head. I think I had someone like Ben Davies or something, like play it conservative. No, not with Ange. No.
Yep.
So, Sonny captain, Maddison and Romero. And I like seeing it. And I like the sort of the pride in when Maddison took it against Brentford, when Romero took it, I think, against Burnley. I actually think he pointed to the fans with the captain's armband.
He did. Yeah. So brilliant. And he loves a colleague of mine who does a lot of the
non-UK broadcasting, speaking to Romero, said he's loving life, which is great to hear.
Great. It's funny. It's funny, Mike, because you can actually see that, can't you? I think as many are kind of alluding to here that are watching the show live, and one thing that keeps coming up is the fact that players are now playing with a real genuine smile on their face. They're all enjoying it. They actually all look like they're there together because they want to be there, and nobody's kind of doing anybody a favour, as we kind of mentioned from the outset. So you touched on Mickey van der Ven there. Look, he's nearly got into an unfortunate habit of scoring a couple of own goals. We don't obviously raise that bar in terms of that shot of the fact that he might be scoring lots of own goals. But I think, as you said, as a whole there, Mickey van der Ven, Romero's a partnership, yet to commit a single foul. I think we've seen with already the Dutchman, he's got a variation of pace, ability on the ball. Great for him. He's been called up to the Netherlands squad for the first time we saw this week as well. But he's played more minutes than any other Spurs player so far. And again, for such a young player that I think, and you'll be able to tell us more about this, Mike, I think when he initially came in, I'm not too sure whether Spurs did want to throw him in completely straight away, where they were going to maybe be a bit of a bedding in period. But because of the fact that he's coming to training, he's looked really good, and the way he's almost adapted to life at Spurs, they did put him in straight away. And it's, again, similar to, as Matt said about Romero getting the vice captaincy, it's a bit of a masterstroke. He's really struck up a really good partnership with Romero. Dare I say, I'm the same as you. I know it's very, really, very early days, Mike, and there's still bigger tests to come. But you can't ask any more of that as a partnership, can you, at the moment?
Absolutely, Ricky. I mean, the fact, everyone was expecting all our games to be conceding 3 or 4. You know, we kept a clean sheet at Bournemouth. You know, clean sheet against Manchester United. Yes, maybe against United they didn't take their chances, but it's been a very, very encouraging start. And it's strange because we're talking about individuals, because I don't want what's the beauty about these first 4 games is we are a collective group now. But if someone actually held a gun to my head and said, "Look, who's been your players of the season so far after 4 games?" But it would probably be Bissouma. So who has just been unbelievable. So and I love Sarr. I love them all. So it's just nice. It's just nice to smile again. I think you can all acknowledge it's early days. We can all acknowledge. And we know the test is a big test as it goes to the Emirates. We don't want our sort of usual 3-1 defeat and all that. Want to go there and give it a good go, you know. So let's wait. Yeah, I think all Spurs fans. I don't think any Spurs fan is going too mad. You know, I just think they're excited and they're enjoying it. I think most Spurs fans you speak to expect there's going to be a few bumpy roads, bumpy results, and I think that's going to be the league this season. Has anyone really impressed you massively? I don't think Man City have got out of first gear.
No.
I think West Ham have done all right. You know, everyone expected them to struggle without Rice, but I think they've recruited really well. I think with Moyes, they thought he was going to leave in the summer. That's not happened. They've started well, but apart from that, I don't think anyone's really impressed. I've not really thought they look good. They look good, you know.
I think the thing as well is, Mike, and again, I know because obviously the role you do have to look at so many clubs. I think a lot of Spurs fans, we're just on the same as you. We are very much tunnel vision, so we only really focus on ourselves. And I know I did see after that, obviously last set of fixtures before the break, everyone's going, could we? It is obviously very, very early. And I think you touched upon it as well before I bring Matt back in, Mike, that essentially we said this, that the only concern is the fact that we have obviously got the reliance now on Van der Ven and Romero until at least January. Obviously, there's young Ashley Phillips, who you've already touched upon, that is very, very raw, very, very young. And I think similar to Chelsea, where they've got Levi Colwill, to bring someone in like Ashley Phillips to a starting lineup, as you've already referenced, against some of the best strikers in the world. I think there may be that reluctance there to do so because, again, it's different types of physical characters. So it's whether Spurs can really battle their way through between now and January, which, as I said earlier, it's 16 league games between now and January's window opening to get through. Do you think, Mike, Spurs will definitely maybe revisit that situation come January and look to bring in another senior centre-back, of course, with Davinson Sanchez moving on permanently now to Galatasaray?
Yeah, I think so, Rick. I mean, look, I don't think it's any secret. Spurs were looking to sign 2 centre-backs. The information for me all the time was a top-class one in the 35 to 50 million bracket. The other one, there was obviously talk about the 2, Tapsoba as well from Leverkusen. Don't think that was ever completely really on the cards. But then it was getting a homegrown one in. And as we can say, repeat, that's the risk. As you say, Ricky, that is a risk. So, and if there is going to be an injury, we are taking risks here, you know, sanctioning Sanchez's departure, you know, and seeing where Dyer is. But I think when you say about throwing people straight in, I think a big reason of that is as well is that the defenders he had at his disposal are not his kind of defenders. So Mickey van der Ven is, you know, he actually watched him when he was Celtic manager. So, you know, at the end of the day, he is the manager. And as he said to me and other reporters, he will take responsibility. So, and that's what he's doing. And then, and when he takes risks, when they don't come off, then he'll have to accept criticism, like against Fulham. But when the risks do come off, like these new signings playing so well, then he deserves all the credit, because a lot of managers would say, no, just put, you know, there are some managers who would have had Mickey van der Ven on the bench for the last 4 games. You know, that's what they do with some new signings. I remember when Hugo Lloris was signed, Brad Friedel was the goalie. It took him about 7 or 8 games. Just get him in, for God's sake. He's the captain of France. You know, it's but anyway, it's a long time ago. But I used to think of examples that with Spurs. We're never always good at bedding in new signings, and so it was a nice refresh.
Well, another new signing that it feels like has been here for his entire career. We've already spoke about his leadership in that vice captaincy role, but what James Maddison has been able to offer Tottenham on the pitch, arguably the signing of the summer, as you already alluded to, and the £14 million bargain that the Postecoglou doesn't want us to talk about. It certainly is that in the current market, and his ability to pick any pass, to dribble past his man, to find those pockets of space in such dangerous areas, and to get on the score sheet himself as well. He's got 2 goals for us already, 2 brilliant goals and 2 assists in his first 4 appearances in the Premier League. He's completely bought into not only the Postecoglou way and the way we want to be on the pitch, but again, as you alluded to, Bridgie, the whole social media side. He just seems to be Spurs through and through already, which is crazy considering we just signed him 2 months ago. Can you remember a player becoming a kind of fan favourite at Tottenham as quickly as James Maddison has been able to?
It's unbelievable. Yeah. It's wonderful signing. No-brainer. It was a no-brainer last season. I was so worried he was going to go to Newcastle, taking my work hat off. And as you say, you know, like even like the videos of his son in the Spurs shop, and says I was destined to play for Tottenham. He's just such a great guy, great character. I think it's important to still have the odd player in your England squad. And, you know, it was really weird sort of like, you know, seeing Kane's name in England, not really worrying about him getting injured anymore. But like, I know with Maddison, I'm worried about him getting injured. And so, but no, he's been an absolute breath of fresh air. He is a bargain in today's market. And again, if he stays fit, what a contribution he's going to make, and what we've seen already, you know, and yeah.
I don't know if you agree, Mike. You know, one thing we've got now at Tottenham, which I know in the past maybe be questioned, is the fact that we've got really good communicators now in terms of Ange, James Maddison, to some degree, obviously Sonny as well, that just seem to connect with the fans. Do you think that's really important, Mike, for this particular era? Because we're obviously going to come on to obviously the loss of Harry shortly, but really intrigued to know from you kind of now from the outside looking in, for you, obviously, especially in the media as well, when you're going to be interviewing these guys, that you want to obviously get, you know, some decent information from, some, you know, really good talking points. I think the one thing with James is that whenever I've seen him interview, he interviews so well. You know, he just comes across on camera as a natural. He tells it as it is, especially in post-match. We've seen him be very, very honest when a team has not played so well. He's the kind of player that, dare I say, for Tottenham, he's the perfect one to roll out after a defeat, because he will be honest. He will tell it as it is. So do you think, again, from a work perspective, it's great having those communicators there that Spurs fans will be able to connect with?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'll be honest with you. A month ago, I actually was a bit worried about Tottenham's lack of leaders. And I was wondering, like, how many actual genuine leaders there are now. And again, masterstroke. What's Ange done? He's basically appointed 3 captains. Yes, Sonny is the main one. But now he's basically saying to Romero, you're senior. You're part of this new leadership team. James, you've been here a few weeks, but it feels like years. You're a leader, you know? So that was a masterstroke. He's basically appointing 3 captains. And as you say, you know, if someone says to me, like, you're going down to Spurs next week, you're going to interview James Maddison, I'd be like, let's get the dartboard out. Let's throw some darts, you know, and just have a nice, relaxed chat with him, you know. And look, there are times when it's incredibly frustrating interviewing players, because there are clubs who, like, don't can't say this, can't say that. You're going to mention that. If you mention that, you've got to mention that. And I'm like, should we just not bother? Should we just not bother?
Yeah.
Like I cover the boxing quite a lot and I do the darts. Then these guys don't have press officers. So what they say is straight from there, not a player going, can I say that? Can I say that? Can I say that? Yeah, say it. Then you get an call an hour later. Can we cut that? I'm like, just. So, yeah, I mean, but with James Maddison, I just, everything he says is from his head and his heart. So, yeah, again, I like listening to him. And if Spurs want to use him as one of their main media sources, then great, and rightly so. So, yeah, an absolute no-brainer signing, done quickly, great negotiations with Leicester. They got Harry Winks in return. Yes, it was 2 separate deals, we know, but yes, but all that went well, and I think Spurs got a brilliant deal. Obviously, that's fact.
Absolutely. Bissouma, Mike, you touched upon him initially there a little bit. I have to ask you because I think for some, he has been arguably one of the standout performers so far over the course of these 4 games. Many are asking, where was this player last season? Why was he not playing? I think, look, as we know, Mike, and for your time of being a Spurs fan, different managers have different methods, different ways of setting up teams. I think what we can clearly see actually from the outset of as soon as Postecoglou walked through the door was that he identified Bissouma as being one of the main men in the team. There was reports very, very early on in pre-season that he earmarked to Bissouma, you're going to be a really important player of mine. I want to see you obviously take that kind of lead off the pitch, talk to the younger players. And although he hasn't obviously made the leadership group, it does appear Bissouma himself is a leader. And I think, again, just the general, I'd say, mood around the player, even from pre-season, the little snippets that you obviously would have seen, obviously in terms of the tour and in terms of social media, he just looks in a really, really, really happy place. He was the man of the match, player of the match against Manchester United. He does feel now undroppable in Postecoglou's system. I just want to ask you, just how good do you think he can become under Ange? Because I think we're definitely seeing the player that wanted us to buy him from Brighton. And dare I say, I think this guy could get even better, Mike. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely. I mean, we all know how well Brighton's recruitment is and how wonderful it's been. And people kept talking about, oh, he's gone there, he's gone there, he's gone there. I'm like, yeah, but what about Bissouma? He felt like a bit of a forgotten man this summer. And I think the little issue was at the start of last season was when he came in against West Ham. He got an early booking, and it kind of like stopped him doing anything for the rest of the game. Now, that might be down to Conte just giving him certain instructions, and that is it. Nothing more. Whereas he seems a lot more free under Postecoglou, like most of these players. Again, it's early days, but what we do know is he is an extremely talented footballer. His partnership with Sarr is really exciting. So long may it continue. Long may it continue. And he's another one where I'm just keeping everything crossed that he returns back from international duty unscathed. But yeah, I mean, that was a snip, if you think about it. Real snip. But of course, people say, what was Conte doing? Didn't handle him right, blah, blah, blah. Only Conte can tell us that. And then, of course, he then picked up that serious ankle injury that ruled him out for 3 months. But then there was that game, the final game of the season against Leeds, where he could just see, oh, God, there's a player there. Wow. Because 𝐅𝐸𝐵𝐵, we all know, didn't work. So when he came back in for the last game of the season, I mean, we all wanted the season just to finish. I mean, barely cheering any of the goals at Leeds. But that was one bright spark. There was like, oh, he looks good. Let's hope he has an injury-free pre-season. And he's been phenomenal.
And before Matt does come in, I have to just mention that outrageous bit of skill we've seen from Bissouma during this international break. And I think, again, that just leaves us really wanting more for what's to come. So, Matt, I'll come over to you because I know there's another midfield player you want to highlight, which Mike's actually already touched upon.
Yeah, you mentioned him there, Bridgie and Pat Matter-Sarr. He's another midfielder that will be questioning how we didn't get a little bit more game time last season. I've mentioned this stat a few times since the season has started, but Sarr last season had 1 touch in the opposition box in the Premier League. Against Man United, he had 5 shots in the opposition box. So that extra freedom that he's been given, of course, been able to get himself on the score sheet as well. And it's another player that the Postecoglou has really thrown into the deep end. And I know he had some big games last season away to Milan. I think he played against Arsenal as well. But he's been thrown right into that team in a very, very important position in the midfield in this system. But he's been fantastic, and he also got that assist for James Maddison's goal against Bournemouth. And he's a player that gives Postecoglou the option to kind of play him anywhere in that Tottenham midfield. And are you pleased that he's been given that chance now to finally play regularly and show what he can really do?
Yeah, I mean, totally. So a colleague of mine, when the deal was being done, said to me, you've beaten, and I'm sure, others reported it, you've beaten some massive, massive clubs to this signing of Sarr. I was like, yeah, sounds it. He said, the best teams in the world have tried to sign this boy. I'm like, okay. And obviously we went back on loan, but then Conte put him in for a few games, didn't he? And then you could see, even when he came on, I think it was against Palace as a sub, you're like, this guy, this boy can play. This boy can play. But again, you might have been caught up in what was a really difficult second half to last season. But yeah, I mean, I can't remember who said it to me, but he was the one Ange was really taken aback by in pre-season. I can't remember who told me. It's not even a secret. I'd say if I remember, but they were like, yeah, he's the one Ange has really taken a keen eye on, and that's been proved by him starting all these games. So unless there's an injury, I think it's going to be Basuma and Sarr for the foreseeable. And I don't think we'll see Bentancur till November, to be honest. I mean, at the earliest, it's such a horror injury. It was the worst of the lot. Now, I remember Spurs losing to Leicester, and I was like, I don't even care about the result. It was more the Bentancur injury.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think for many, Mike, you kind of pick up on it there. It feels for many that season kind of started dwindling from that moment. Bentancur went down, didn't get back up because Spurs wasn't the same team. And the mad thing is now, when you think about the fact that Spurs have got Bentancur to come back into this side, that is really, really exciting, isn't it? You look at that midfield and you think, and Bentancur as well to come back. I mean, there's just some real genuine excitement about the array of options, Mike, that we've got now in that midfield.
Well, again, it's, we've got to do a thank you to Paratici, haven't we, really? Because, he was the man getting in Sarr. And then obviously I remember getting into work at like 5 a.m. and my colleague Carbo texted me saying, Luis Diaz is going to Liverpool. You get this stood up. I'm like, what? He's joining Tottenham. I'm like, you're joking. And I was devastated. But, then obviously the Kulusevski and Bentancur, and, you go, oh, this is Paratici going back to his old club, getting, players that they're not wanted at Juve. But, how successful did they turn out to be at Spurs? And, I'm Bentancur. I think he's such a class act. I mean, I think we all know this. So, yeah, it's another one from Paratici, really. I say well done.
Absolutely. Listen, what we are going to do, we are going to go for our final break of the show for our listeners and audio. For those that are watching us live, thank you so much. Over 1,000+ of you that are watching us live. For those that are asking, can we make Bridgie a regular? We would love to make Bridgie a regular, but I think Sky Sports have got something to do with that, and the rest of his, bless him, his life that is going on in the background. I'm sure, as Mike is obviously as well, seen to get older as well at Tottenham, he's got a lot to do. But listen, whenever we can bring Mike on Last Word On Spurs, we most certainly will try and make that happen. We're joined by the wonderful Michael Bridge from Sky and the brilliant Matt Hayes on this Last Word On Spurs. Guys, a very brief reminder, if you do need us telling you, another shameless plug from us, that Last Word On Spurs has been nominated for the upcoming Football Content Awards, and that is now open. You can, of course, if you wish, vote for Last Word On Spurs in the best podcast in Premier League. You can do it by tweeting us. You can do that by using that QR code for those that are watching us live. And again, just want to say again, massive, massive thank you for all the incredible support we have for this show. We genuinely appreciate every single message that we get in what's been a busy, frantic summer, and one that we can now say, I think Mike is also relieved, the transfer window has come to an end. It is now on to the football until January comes around, which, to be fair, I'm sure in Mike's world, it probably feels like next week it's coming back open, but we have got a little bit of time, right, Mike? Have you recovered, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it gets earlier and earlier. You know what I mentioned earlier in the show when I said about like clubs. It's not, you know, you don't get your Ozils and your Van der Vaarts like you used to, because clubs are just a bit more savvy now. It's just like, you know, Arsenal, you know, wanted Declan Rice for a long time. They ended up getting him. You know, it doesn't go to deadline day anymore. But even so, you know, so our transfer shows sort of started back in June. You know, you don't usually talk about football in early June, but it was relentless, you know, and Chelsea selling everyone to the Saudi Pro League. And, you know, there was something to talk about nearly every day. Ange getting appointed was great and big, but obviously Kane, Bayern was rumbling on, wasn't it? You know, we all know, I mean, I'm sure we'll come on to that. But I mean, so it's a mental thing as well, boys, because, you know, it's, you have a day off, like you're not on the rota, but you'll get a text in the morning. Can you check this with that club, or an agent? Can you get that out for me? Can you check this? Can you check that? Hi, Michael, I've just seen something on Sky. Can you change that? It's my day off, but then no, it's not your day off. This is the world. This is the life you've chosen, and I'm very lucky, very privileged. But you know, after deadline day, my first live, I got there at the training ground, 7 o'clock, still dark. Left at midnight, the last one there. And it's weird. I was just outside the training ground waiting for my cab, and I was just like the only one here apart from the security guy. And just like, it's just weird. It's just it's a strange feeling. And then the phone stops like for a few days, and it's a strange feeling. It's a strange feeling. But you have to have you've got to take a break. And I think it's good that the international break happened as well. So I'm not covering England or anything. So need a bit of a recharge in any of our jobs. If you can get, you know, have a little recharge. And I'm guilty of it as well. Put the phone down, put some, you know, listen to some. I'm an Elvis fan. I like my old music and all that. So, you know, sometimes put your phone away and have a bit of a relax, or go for a long walk. You know, try and take your mind off it. And actually, in a funny way, because things are going well at the moment with Spurs, you can kind of take your mind off it because you're not so angry all the time.
No, that's true. True.
So I've had a bit of a reset.
Many thought we were angling there for a song, Mike, but we won't make you charge us for that. Don't your singing voice. What I will say is that I said to Bridgie, we're going to aim for a 10 o'clock finish. We'll try our best to quicken things up, but I think there's so much going on right now in terms of obviously the good things about Tottenham. But I promise you, Mike, we'll try and won't keep you too long. But I'll say there's lots of love pouring in for you here. What we'll talk about is obviously in the mixture of some of the other players that we mentioned, but some that obviously didn't secure a move. And there might be a change in their future. Giovanni Lo Celso is a really interesting one, because I think at the beginning of the summer, many would have been surprised to see Lo Celso stay at the football club. I mean, he's only had one brief appearance so far in the Premier League, and that only lasted 45 minutes at Fulham. I say Premier League, sorry, that was Carabao Cup against Fulham, but for a quad injury, forced him off. It looks like, Mike, you know, from the outside looking in, that essentially he's going to be the almost, you'd say, Maddison rotation option. So when Maddison needs a break, Lo Celso will come in for him. That's obviously during a game, and Maddison will go off. Lo Celso will come in. Do you feel that's going to be kind of, in the most polite way, the bit part role he's going to play, or do you think there's the opportunity to play more, or do you think that is going to be the kind of limited game time between now and January?
I don't know with Lo Celso. I'm going to be honest with you, boys. I've taken my work hat off again. And, you know, a couple of games and there was an injury. And then I think in his first season, he got a really nasty hamstring injury. I don't know. I'm surprised he stayed, if I'm honest. I know Unai Emery was looking at him potentially at Villa, but their options changed. So, yeah, I don't know. Honestly, with Lo Celso, I don't know. You know, he's an Argentina regular, but I don't know if it will ever happen for him at Tottenham. I hope he does, because it means Tottenham, if he does do well, it means Spurs are successful. So he's certainly a good option off the bench, that's for sure. But I don't see him long term.
Yep.
But if I'm wrong, great, because that means he's done well.
Yep.
If you know
absolutely.
what I mean.
Yep. No, I get you. Yep.
Yeah, I think with the surprise maybe that we had with Lo Celso staying, there was, on my part anyway, surprised that Pierre-Emile Højbjerg was one that looked as though he might have been moving on this summer. He's been reduced to a supporting role in the team at the moment, and previously one of the first names in the team sheet. He's had to get used to that different role, coming off the bench and kind of shoring things up in the last few minutes of a few games, and of course playing starting that game against Fulham, where the reports weren't too good about how he performed. Watching on from the sidelines with Postecoglou opting to go for Bissouma, Sarr and Maddison, his minutes have come from the bench. At international level, he scored in both their games over this international break, so he clearly still has the ability and even a little bit of form. I think he's said that he made it clear to Postecoglou that he has to show his best side and kind of deserve what he gets from his time in the pitch. But with the links to Atletico Madrid and how maybe he was keen to go there to play Champions League football, are you pleased that he's still at the club, Bridgie, or do you think it might be one that, with a player who wanted to go, there might be a little bit of maybe bad relationship there between him and the new manager? I think you're on mute there, Bridgie. Oh, just fix it.
I think he's content. Did he want a new challenge? Yes. Were Tottenham prepared to listen to offers? Yes. Did I think he was going to go to Atletico Madrid in June? Yes. Did it happen? No. So I think it was a financial issue with Atletico Madrid in the end. He didn't want to go to Fulham. I mean, it looked like Paolini was going to go to Bayern Munich. Fulham were then going to try and get 𝐁𝐵 in. Obviously, that didn't happen. Talk of Atletico on the final day. Don't think the finances were working Atletico's end, so he stayed. Obviously, there's interest from for Conor Gallagher. I still don't know. I know it's different eras now and different ownerships, but Chelsea and Spurs transfers, if that would have definitely happened if 𝐁𝐵 had left. I do know for certain that Spurs would have looked light if he would have gone and Spurs didn't bring in a replacement. I think with Pierre-Emile 𝐁𝐵, and God, I don't think I've ever known a player that divides Spurs fans. Is that fair, or is there more anti him than? I don't know. I know some who just don't have him whatsoever. I know there's some who do like him. But what I would say is, touchwood, he never seems to get injured. Scoring tonight will be a boost for him. I know he scored against San Marino the other night. San Marino, yes. But scoring tonight, okay, away to Finland, good goal. So I think, to come on maybe 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and I'm sure he'll hate the fact he's on the bench. And that's a good thing. We don't want happy players who are on the bench. So my concern, I think, with Tottenham is when they make the odd change and substitution, I feel the standard drops quite a bit. And that's why we saw with Fulham. And then with Burnley, four subs, they score a goal. Does the standard drop a bit too much? So, but yeah, I think with 𝐁𝐵, maybe they'll revisit that again in January. Because as I say, he did want a new challenge, and it didn't happen.
Again, similar, Mike, with Perisic, because again, we saw at the very, very start of the summer when Postecoglou walked in, it felt for many apparent that 100% he wouldn't be fancied by Postecoglou and he'd be out the door. But, it's funny because, again, Postecoglou's made reference to the fact that this guy is incredibly fit as a player, an athlete even. He can get up and down the wing. It seems to, again, similar to 𝐁𝐵, been used as, vital experience coming off the bench to see out games. I wonder whether if he's happy with that role, Perisic, and whether you do think he'll still be here come maybe the end of the season, or whether January again will be an option for Perisic to maybe look at alternative if he isn't getting a lot of game time.
Yeah, so there was one day at work where we had it stood up that Atletico were in talks with Spurs for 𝐁𝐵, and also I think it was 𝐿𝐵 Split wanted to sign Perisic. Both I expected to go through, or I expected Perisic to leave, definitely. Yeah. There was sort of murmurings at the end of last season that he hadn't settled, wasn't overly happy, and was going to leave, and was going to maybe even go back to Serie A if he wasn't going to 𝐿𝐵 Split. So I am surprised he stayed, but he did have some promising games in pre-season. I like the thought of Perisic as a cameo. I do like it. He's got an incredible cross on him. That does Spurs no harm at all having, like we see with Postecoglou now, the options he's going to have on the wings. Don't forget, we've got Bryan Hill coming back soon. And Sessegnon, you forget about him. I mean, fans I know have completely written him off. I wouldn't write anyone off under Postecoglou. I mean, the problem with Sessegnon is his hamstrings, so there's options there for sure. And this is another example of why Spurs were wanting to bang the drum of this big squad. There's players you keep saying, I forgot about him. Because I think Bryan Hill could play right or left and he could do a job under Ange. I wouldn't rule anyone out under this manager. And as someone has rightly said there, I think Ange likes Perisic. Georgie, you're absolutely right. He does.
Well, I want to speak to you a little bit about Richarlison, because he's been kind of in all over social media the last couple of days. I mean, he was reduced to tears after being taken off during Brazil's 5-1 win against Bolivia. He missed a very, very good opportunity and was withdrawn shortly after that in the first qualifier for the 2026 World Cup. It's now 4 games without a goal for his country since he scored in that game against South Korea in Qatar, where he also registered an assist as well. Now, in his 10 games before that for Brazil, he was on scintillating form. He'd scored 10 goals with 3 assists, which is half of his international goals coming in those previous 10 games before the tournament. Domestically, with Spurs, it's now just 1 goal in 31 Premier League games for Tottenham since that huge signing from Everton last summer, and only 4 assists with it. With Harry Kane having less this summer, which again I'm sure we'll go into a little bit more detail on, the pressure is really on for Richarlison to turn what, as Postecoglou said, has been some encouraging performances into something much more tangible, into more goal contributions. And he did score his first goal of the domestic season in that Carabao Cup defeat to Fulham, despite the fact we went on to lose that on penalties. But he can't break that duck in the Premier League, and it's 8 games since his last goal in the league, that what turned out to be futile goal in the 4-3 defeat at Anfield. His confidence is completely shot, and we see that by how he reacted when he was taken off against Bolivia. It's as low as it's ever been, and he's had to watch Son go into that number 9 position against Burnley and go on to pick up that hat-trick. We are seeing, again, as Andrew said, his hold-up play has been good, his link-up play has been good, but he knows that he can do better. We know that he can do better, but he just can't seem to turn that into performances. Do you back him to go on and become that forward player that Spurs need to be a pivotal part of what Postecoglou wants to do?
I hope I'm wrong, but I don't. But I hope I'm wrong. But it's just an opinion as a fan. I can't see it. But I really do hope I'm wrong. And it's not nice seeing players upset. It's not nice. But he is a very emotional lad. He was upset. He cried when he scored those 2 goals against Marseille. 2 good headers. Yeah. There is an argument that's, I've seen the arguments, and a very close friend of mine said, I'd start him against Sheffield United because it might be a good game to put him in and give him confidence. But you could flip it around the other way and say, well, if he doesn't touch the ball for 60 odd minutes and he gets taken off then, I mean, could be even more worrying. Why, say Spurs are 1 down at the Emirates, or it's 1-1 with 10 minutes to go. I would definitely be bringing Richarlison on, and I'd say to him, make yourself a pain in the backside. Go and get that last minute header. Then you could be potentially a hero.
Similar to Anfield, Mike, isn't it, as well? Though? Similar to Anfield, like Liverpool.
Yeah. I mean, that just summed up last season, the joke that it was, that Spurs conceded just seconds after. And I was really pleased with Richarlison, but it was just like taking his shirt off every time a goal was scored, and then it was disallowed, then doing it again and then celebrating at Anfield only for them to concede 30 seconds later. I mean, it was his season never got going. And of course, with Harry Kane, that's, you're never going to replace him. But we know now that Sonny through that middle, he's probably going to be that, it's going to take a lot for Ange to turn him round and go, with Celtic, he loved Kyogo sort of in that middle, and we know how much he loves Son, and I just feel I don't see how he's going to change that ahead of the Sheffield United game. He's just scored a hat-trick, but I do hope Richarlison turns this around, because he seems like a good lad, and it's not nice to see anyone like that in that situation. If I'm being honest, it's amazing when people say he's Brazil's number 9, because I'm surprised he's starting at the moment. But yeah, look, let's hope he scores some dramatic late goals in big games, because he can do it in big games. We know he can. We've seen it at Everton as well, and Everton fans adore him. So I've not written him off. No, I've not written him off.
I'm in your camp, Mike. I mean, the thing that worries me most is the fact that in his best Premier League season, he's only amounted 15 goals. And that's worrying. But again, I will obviously caveat that and say it's an Everton side with no disrespect that you'd say with Spurs and their ammunition and firepower around him could maybe produce him more goals. But I do have that niggling feeling that you feel as well, that I'm just not sure whether he's equipped to be able to handle this. And again, it kind of ties in before we bring in Harry, because again, I know there's a lot of talk around Harry and the comments that have come out over the weekend, which we're going to address in a minute. Obviously, we know Postecoglou is he was very adamant, I think, for a lot of the winner at Spurs. He wasn't looking for an out-and-out number 9. I just wonder whether, hypothetically, if it doesn't work out for Richarlison, do you think, and again, they've just brought in Brennan Johnson, do you think Spurs in January would maybe look and consider options as to whether they would bring in an out-and-out forward, or do you just think Ange's mindset is the fact that we don't need to have that almost out-and-out number 9? We can play with, a number of different forwards in those front 3 positions.
Yeah, I think it's a bit like the defender situation. Maybe not as much, because I think we are a defender light. Whereas I think Ange just looks at it and goes, "No, this is us till January, and I'm happy with that." And I think we should be, really, because I think with the options out wide, I mean, you could even bring Kulusevski in as a 10. If you talk about, Lo Celso replacing Maddison, you could have Kulusevski there as a 10. Hill, Perisic, like people on the wide, I think we're really well stocked, and that allows Sonny to really concentrate on the middle. So I wasn't overly shocked that Spurs didn't bring in another striker. Of course, we've got the young lad from Argentina, Beleth, coming in, but Andrew's quite stern on the fact that he's not remotely ready yet. And so, yeah, I think it's a bit of a wait and see job, see where we are. But as I think Celtic scored like 9. I can't remember how many goals they scored Celtic last season, but it was all completely spread out. It'd be nice for Richarlison to have maybe 8 or 9 on him this season. It's just whether he gets those opportunities, but he'll have to take them. He will have to take them. But is it better now for Richarlison, just for now, to be out of the firing line? And if Spurs are a goal down, as I say, at Arsenal, just make yourself a nuisance. He is a nuisance. He's a nuisance. We know what he's like, but be a positive nuisance. And go and grab a goal. It's good in the air. Go and grab a goal last minute at the Emirates. Something like that.
Absolutely. Matt, I'll hand over to you to discuss the man. You can always get this question, Matt. My apologies. Obviously, a man that departed us in the summer, Spurs' main man. I'll hand over to Matt, if you can hear us still, Matt, over there, to discuss the departure of course, Spurs'.
I think I just with you. Can you hear me?
I've got you, Matt. Can you hear us?
Sorry.
Can you hear us okay?
I think my connection was doing funny things there. Look, you do give me this question, don't you? I don't know what I've done to deserve it, but Bridgie, look, the man that Richarlison has come in to replace at Spurs is, of course, the all-time top goal scorer, Harry Kane, who moved on to Bayern Munich over the summer, and he gave an interview over the weekend, which has upset some sections of the Spurs fan base, suggesting the pressure of having to win at Bayern Munich is something that's a lot more than he didn't have at Spurs. I think he said where if he went 2 games without winning at Tottenham, it wasn't a disaster. Do you think those comments from Kane are fair? Did he need to say that? And I think the main gripe the Tottenham fans had with that is he played in the Champions League final, a few League Cup finals, a lot of FA Cup semi-finals, and a few title challenges as well, where he didn't score the crucial goals at the crucial times for the club. He kind of ghosted in a few finals. Do you think the comments are fair despite that? Or do you think maybe that he kind of needs to look at the bigger picture a little bit?
I think firstly, guys, went on social media yesterday and Spurs fans fighting with each other over this. And I know it's international break and people are bored, and would it be so dramatic if Spurs had a game at 3:00? Probably not. But I'm probably in the minority here when I say I wasn't that bothered. I really didn't take offence or feel anything negative towards him about it. My first reaction when I read it was, yeah, because if Bayern lost the Bundesliga game, it is a big deal because it's an easier league for them. They should win the league every season. They do win the league every season. Some disliked it. Some, I think, went a bit too far from what I read. And then singling him out, losing finals and semis. Look, everyone's entitled to their opinion, but I'm thinking, come on, he got them to some of them. But then, I think perhaps it's still a bit raw. The transfer was only a month ago. Could he have chosen his words a bit better on the Spurs bit? Possibly. But he's an intelligent bloke, and I'm sure he could have written a book on the events, on how his final days at the club were, back and forth from Stansted, and I'm sure he could say a lot more on his departure. I'm just not bothered. I just feel like Spurs have completely moved on and out of sight, out of mind, which is fine because he's not going to Chelsea next year on a free transfer. He's not going to Man United on a free transfer next year. He's at Bayern Munich in the German league. I don't really watch a hell of a lot of German football. I watch enough football. I won't be watching him week in, week out. I just feel maybe it was probably a bit early for some Spurs fans and a bit raw. And the odd things might sting a bit, but I don't think there was any malice there. Yeah, I wasn't massively bothered, if I'm completely honest with you. And I'm sure a part of that is because of all the positivity going around at the club at the moment.
I know we're pushed for time, Mike, and we are going to look to bring the show to a close in a couple of minutes. But I just want to ask you, just on Kane, are you surprised as a fan he took that Bayern Munich option? Or did you think maybe he was going to wait it out until the end of this season, meaning he would have obviously seen out his final 12 months and had the option to go wherever he could have done, now looking back at it?
Yeah, I mean, let's get this right. He would have had nearly every football club in the world offering him a humongous terms next summer. And people say, oh, he wouldn't have joined them. He wouldn't have joined them. Well, him joining Bayern has eliminated that anyway. So out of sight, out of mind. And he was the greatest goal. He's the greatest goal scorer. And when the news came through that Spurs had accepted an offer, actually, my heart did skip a beat. I genuinely swear to you, I was like, I can't believe it. It did feel funny. It did feel funny. And it's weird, isn't it? It's weird because he did so much. And even like last year, scoring 30 league goals in a team that finished 8th, some of the goals, and then the English, like people like this, like the England games, they're like, why is he dropping deep? Like, are you crazy? Because he's one of the best passers in the world. And then they acknowledge these through balls, like for Walker. It's like, you've just had
that was very funny. I saw him get absolutely lambasted at the weekend. Then he put that through ball for him. It was amazing.
Oh, so I've got nothing negative to say about him.
Yep.
And if some Spurs fans do, then that's their right. We can't all agree. We'd be robots, wouldn't we? I've got nothing bad to say about him. He was a credit to this football club. He had some incredible moments. Yes, he was part of sides that lost finals. Yes, he probably shouldn't have played in the Champions League final. Hey, yeah, sure, it's done. And I do wish him the very best. I do, genuinely. The only thing I would say, and this is from a Spurs perspective, because those boring jokes about trophies, I didn't want him to win that Super Cup. For some reason, I don't know what it is about Italy or Germany. I don't know if it's because it's got the word super in it, but that seems to be 10 times more important than the Community Shield here. Maybe they should just call it the English Super Cup.
Yeah.
Super Cup.
Yeah,
because it's got charity or community. No. But German Super Cup. But again, essentially, it was just a glorified friendly. But everyone was just ready to go for Tottenham. He's won a trophy in 24 hours. So man. I did not want him to win that Super Cup.
No.
I'm glad they lost. Apart from that, I, hand on heart, wish him the very, very best. But I wasn't bothered about the comments because it's done. He's no longer a Tottenham player.
I mean, if we thought our WhatsApp groups of banter was bad at the point of him being sold, could you imagine what it would have been like after he would have won that? My God, would have been unbearable. Mike, I am conscious we're taking you way over time. We are nearly finished. Son, of course, has now got the mantle of being Spurs' new main man, but many would argue the fact that when Kane had been out injured previously, Son really did step up for Tottenham. Look, I think it's fair to say that he's shown himself in that game against Burnley, and again, it's only one game that he can play effectively down the middle for Ange Postecoglou in that system with a superb hat-trick. We've really seen actually some experienced displays from Son in his time at Tottenham. He's earned praise from the boss the way he's handled that captaincy so far. We've actually seen some lovely moments over pre-season with Sonny where, you know, the way he's kind of taken upon the players, even with Brennan Johnson, who he's obviously yet to actually meet formally at Hotspur, where even during the international break, we've seen some lovely clips of Sonny. I just wonder whether you feel he's going to really, really grow with that captaincy now at Spurs. And of course, he has it for his country as well. And what you made that decision, because again, I think many would maybe feel he was almost a standout, that he deserves the captaincy for the fact that this is the one thing I would say about Son. Every time that he's been linked away with a move, Son has not only personally come out and denied it, but reaffirmed his commitment to Tottenham. And we can't forget, Son, I think, at the time, he signed a 5-year contract when Nuno was here. And no disrespect to Nuno, but I mean, anybody signing a 5-year contract at that time, you'd have to mentally question their own sanity at that point. So how much credit does Son deserve for really, sticking to the calls, literally being Spurs through and through? He just seems, even every day, he loves the club more and more.
Yeah, I mean, phenomenal. And what I'm really encouraged about was that hat trick. It did feel like the old Sonny, the way he put him away, where the minute he touched the ball, this is going in the back of the net. And I've not had that from Son for a while. And of course, he revealed about the injury he'd carried all last season. When I hear players carrying injuries, just have the blooming surgery, because it never works carrying injuries. It never, ever works. But I'm glad they do let us know, because it does answer questions. But he's not getting any younger. So my concern was, has he lost a little bit in that sense as well? But Burnley, very, very encouraging. Captain, an absolute honour for him. He's a credit to the football club. And he's a lovely person. That's important. What a great ambassador the club will have. And I'm sure when he retires, he'll be everywhere on every pre-season tour going as a Tottenham ambassador. He's just got that about him. So yeah. So you can just see he's Ange, made for Ange, made for him. And what brilliant the other day was at Spurs TV. Ange walks in and he puts his arm around him. Should have had 4 today. Love it. But yeah, great. Love him. Absolute credit to this football club.
Oh man, must agree.
As Ricky touched on there, Son's already spoken about his excitement for playing with Brennan Johnson, who of course Spurs brought in on deadline day. The Wales international penned a long-term deal at Spurs until 2029, one of the future 6-year contracts we've handed out this summer, and we wear the number 22 shirt for any fan who might be looking to get their jersey in. He arrives at the Tottenham Stadium for just shy of £50 million with no add-ons after spending his entire career at Forest, joining the academy there at the age of 8. After breaking into the Forest team in 2021, he scored 29 goals and registered 12 assists for them in 109 appearances. Last season, it was 8 goals and 3 assists to help keep Forest in the Premier League following their historical promotion from the Championship. He has started the opening 3 games of the 23-24 season, with Chelsea and Brentford also apparently interested in bringing him in throughout this window, but it was Tottenham who won the race to bring him in just before the deadline. How excited are you by this signing, Bridgie?
I'm a lot more excited after speaking to a couple of people about it. And also that Ange Postecoglou was so keen. If he's really keen on someone, then I'm excited, because obviously the ones he brought in at Celtic, yes, different league, but I think we can pass this now. What he does to the players, and if it's his kind of player, then wow, very direct, very fast. You can imagine him doing some serious damage on the counter attack. So, and again, he looks like a really nice lad. I've never met him, but really exciting. And then obviously Forest fans, I like reading social media comments sometimes, and they were all just wishing him all the best, devastated, never felt this gutted since blah, 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 left Forest in the 90s, and that bodes well. And Steve Cooper spoke so highly of him as well. So, yeah, I think Spurs have got a good one there. They know that, it looks like hopefully things are really improving on the recruitment front, and it's all well and good signing homegrown players, but they want to be top quality homegrown players. So, yeah, I think that's a positive one for sure.
Before Matt asks you the final question, Mike, with regards to season expectations, chance for you to gather your thoughts on that. What has been announced this week, which is an interesting topic, because again, I think there's definitely been a feeling around fans generally that there's been a real lack of communication around Tottenham from the top downwards, and that's that Chairman Daniel Levy and Ange Postecoglou are set to speak in front of a room full of Tottenham fans this month, along with a host of other important figureheads you'd say at the club. The last forum, it took place during Pochettino's era, with Levy and then captain Hugo Lloris taking part. This event will take place at the Spurs Stadium on Tuesday, September the 19th. Again, we expect Heung-min Son will be there. There will be, of course, also members of the women's team as well. So this, you would imagine, will be an opportunity for fans to maybe point the questions towards Daniel Levy personally and of those figureheads around the football club. And you'd like to think those that attend that event will come away feeling that there is an opportunity there, that they've been able to put the questions that need to be asked to the hierarchy, to, of course, the captain as well. I'm just keen to get your thoughts on the timing of this from Tottenham, in which obviously They're riding the crest of a decent wave. It's it's going to be obviously very, very soon this comes about for Tottenham. Thoughts on it for you personally and what you make of that decision from Tottenham to open that up?
Well, that's a positive one. I think, you mentioned last time would have been under Poch, Hugo. I'll have to look it up myself. It might have been a time when the stadium was either done or getting done. And obviously under Poch, most of the time it was a very, very good time. So I'd imagine it was all more positive back then. This time, despite the start to the season, there is a lot going on, isn't there, with questions, with the trust, the supporters, fan engagement, in terms of ticket prices, some being outpriced, the transfer window, managerial decisions, price of football in general, protests. So this is important. The Tottenham fans, you need more than just, notes of the programme at the end of the season. So this is a step forward. Fans do deserve to be listened to. I'm biased, but I think I'm not. No, Spurs fans are some of the best in the world. You hear about certain clubs, they travel up and down. So do Tottenham. Burnley. The loyalty points like so high to go to Burnley when there was a train strike. Fulham, about 9,000 Spurs fans. Just phenomenal support. Sold out every week, and you can't lose that core. Don't ever lose those support. Don't underappreciate the supporters. So it will be interesting. It'd be interesting to see the questions. Some will say, "Oh, I bet they vet the questions." I don't know about that. I mean, I don't know how many, if media are going to be invited at all, but I'm sure there'll be someone will stream some of the questions. I know he given his last interviews, was it to the Oxford, was it the Cambridge universities? Yeah. Look, I mean, they won't be the toughest people to ask questions. So these are fans. So it's a positive step, and it's a positive one. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and again, I just think potentially, and I say that word potentially because I know again it must be important. I say this that some are done with the current hierarchy. Some obviously, of course, for them, they wait to see what this next era comes. But this could be an opportunity to try and form potentially a step of some alignment with supporters. But look, again, we shall wait to see. Matt, I'll hand over to you. So we'll finish. Well, I hope there's been, Mike, a nice interrogation, not too harsh or severe.
Oh, it's been great. Been great.
Pleasure, mate. Pleasure.
Well, look, we spent the first 45 minutes of the show, which is probably why we're running over late, but just waxing lyrical about Postecoglou. We could have done it for another 45 if we'd had the time. But look, the impact he's had, Bridgie, has been absolutely sensational. What he's done behind the scenes to transform Spurs, and then what he's done on the pitch in only a matter of weeks, with a lot of turmoil, with the departure of Harry Kane and the overhaul of that squad, has been really has been something special. And the most exciting thing is that this is only the beginning. We're unbeaten in the Premier League, second in the table, only dropping 2 points so far this season, having played 3 of those games away from home. The fans are loving the football. We're all back on side, finally enjoying watching matches again. So having said all that, what does success in your eyes look like for Spurs this season?
Well, again, it all comes down to any serious injuries to key players, because I think it's a really, really good 11. I think it picks itself at the moment, if I'm honest. Maybe change the wide players now and again. But if they stay fit, top 6. Definitely top 6. I've seen enough. And if they're playing like that after 4 games, then that bodes well. Unfortunately, we talk about trophies. They've lost probably their best opportunity in the Carabao Cup. The FA Cup has to be... It doesn't matter if they're at home to, with the greatest respect, Tranmere. No silliness.
Yep.
One change, 2 change, whatever. That's it. Go for the FA Cup. Go for it. I was away at Sheffield United last year in February or March. I was in the away end. 6,500 sellout. Poor. Kane on the bench, Romero on the bench. Start them, go 2-0 up, then put on the bench. It has to change that mentality of cups. But top 6 for me, bare minimum. I don't want to get ahead of myself. I do not want to go ahead of myself. But top 6, which gets the club back into Europe, which would be highly likely the Europa League. Let's see where they go with the top 5 in terms of the new Champions League. So yeah, I think top 6, and that's that. Look, I'm gonna say it minimum, because I've been that impressed by what I've seen. But if there's injuries to Maddison, Romero, Van der Ven, then we have to start worrying.
Yeah,
got to be honest. We've got to worry, because I don't see a lot off the bench at the moment in central midfield or at the back for me to carry on with this confidence.
Yep. I won't name names. I mean, there's been some pundits out there that didn't even tip Spurs to finish in the top 10. So, but the fact of the start we've made, I think we can all be, like I say, quietly confident that we're in for a good season. Mike, there's been lots of love for you from a lot of Spurs fans in the comments tonight. I want to say again a massive thank you for coming on. We know you've had a chaotic transfer window, a week off. We got to again say thank you so much for all your incredible support for Spurs, for what you do on Sky. Again, you bring us so much great coverage. We know you've got to try and remain as neutral as you can when you're on camera, but we know off it, like all of us, you're diehard Spurs. So we can't thank you enough. For those new listeners and viewers that have tuned in for the first time tonight, that have listened to you, Mike, and don't know where to find you, which I can't believe they don't know where to find you, Mike, where can they find your home on a week-to-week, day-to-day basis?
Yeah, so TV, Sky Sports News. Tuesdays I'm on the football show, 10 a.m. Thursdays and Fridays I'll be somewhere at a press conference. Ideally, Ange on Fridays at 1 p.m. And Twitter, my socials, Michael Bridge. Any questions, please get in touch. The Spurs fans, a big thank you to all the lovely comments. I do genuinely appreciate it. We're a great bunch. I know you get frustrated with certain things, but I think, when I've had some, 99.9% of questions are always fair and measured. So it's appreciated.
Bless you, mate. We really appreciate it. Matt, I'm sure you agree. Amazing show, amazing journalist. It's a positive time, Matt, right, to be a Spurs fan at the moment.
Yeah, it's weird. I've said it quite a bit over the last few weeks. I forget how to act when things are going well. Like, the whole smiling thing about football, it's weird. It's new to us again. But it's an absolute joy to be part of it. Looking forward to a very, very exciting season, but absolute pleasure to catch up with Bridgie again. It's been too long. But yeah, a wonderful, wonderful show.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, thank you so much for all your support. Over a couple of thousand have watched us live tonight across the world here. So again, thank you so much for all your incredible support for the show from myself, from Matt, from the brilliant Michael Bridge. Guys, please keep safe, keep well. Ange Ball is back upon us very, very soon. And as always, come on you Spurs.